welcome. All right, Ryan Colby, founder and CEO, Tokenfest. All right, Ryan, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Okay, you've got an event coming up, but before we get into what the event is, let's talk about Tokenfest. But before we do that, let's talk about you. Give us a little background on you, and then we'll go into Tokenfest, okay?
Sure, absolutely. I'm actually a well-known domain name broker and got my start in the internet business or the internet world, and I have been doing that successfully for a decade. And before I started brokering premium domains, I was actually in the conference production business for a couple companies, one of them being IDG World Expo, where I sort of learned the ins and outs of conference sales, marketing, production, basically how to produce events, market them, and grow them essentially around the world. So my professional background primarily has been internet marketing, domain name sales, and conference production.
Okay, thank you. Now, Tokenfest, what is it? What's going to happen there?
So Tokenfest is a company we created last year with the goal to really create executive-level, distinctive networking experiences for blockchain thought leaders. So anybody who's exploring the business of blockchain within the enterprise, people who are looking to invest in this alternative area, it's going to really cover the A to Z for the crypto markets, but particularly, how enterprise blockchain is going to affect large-scale humanitarian issues in the world. It's a big thing.
Stop. That's a big statement. Give me a for instance on that one.
Well, just take one problem, like, banking the unbanked, right? Just that one problem alone. I mean, how many billions of people in the world are left outside the traditional economic system because they don't have access to banks or banking. That could be just based on where they live, an unfortunate situation of their political environment. And, crypto and technology, the blockchain, can now provide a peer-to-peer based solution for that where, an intermediary essentially isn't needed. So opening up just that one portion of the globe and enabling them for people to do commerce with one another is a game changer.
Well, what's been blowing my mind recently is the amount of money that we're seeing, or I'm hearing, haven't seen it personally yet, but I'm hearing about the initial coin offerings, how you're going around the old guard broker-dealer to be able, or investment banking establishments, who've got money that runs all the way up to the capital of the United States and Congress and Senates, where they change rules and laws, and you guys are just completely going around that, and billions of dollars are being created in a new economy through blockchain and ICOs. Are you going to be discussing some of that at Tokenfest?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's actually the heart of it. We are actually, with some of our speakers who we've announced most of them, but a lot of the panel sessions we're putting together, some of these folks are at the highest levels of government in the legal system, and they will be shedding their opinions and, basically on this framework, for regulation, compliance, oversight, best practices, what to do, what not to do. And, also, getting a sense for, how the different governments of the world view cryptocurrency, whether it's pro or con. And that's an interesting subject. We feel that the U.S. right now is actually, very pro and bullish. And it looks like they're doing things to get actively involved, to help regulate and, continue. You don't want to stifle growth when you see this. You want to let it kind of blossom, but you also want to have, the regulations in place, to let it grow in the right way. So that will absolutely be the heart of the discussion. Lots of legal and compliance panels. We have many of the top-tier legal firms sponsoring the event, so we're looking forward to that.
Ed, you're all over this topic. Any questions?
We spent an incredible amount of time talking about cryptos here and looking at different companies, whether it's Mobius, Crypterium, or even looking at Estonia, which has their e-residency that they use for and potentially issuing their own cryptocurrency. what I see it as far as blockchain and cryptos are concerned is I see it as a form of democratization when it comes to capital, in the sense that the traditional guardians of the gate with regard to extending capital, like with crypteriums or credit tokens, are no longer in a position where they can control people's ability and access to capital. Do you see Tokenfest as being a place where not just for people who are interested in the science behind it, but also the humanitarian part behind it being a driver in putting this thing together?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we're going to be announcing soon is we are actually producing a short film documentary called The Evolution of Money, and we're going to actually feature it right at Tokenfest. It's going to be a 4 to 5 minute trailer, and it's going to really, throw out, big world challenges in terms of where we are in human history right now. What is money? What is it really, and what isn't it? And we're at the point now with technology when we have to make choices about, do we continue to enslave people with high fees and middlemen in the name of capitalism, or are we going to take a more socially acceptable, economic inclusive model, more towards this peer-to-peer, call it sharing economy? Crypto economy is a very interesting thing that's going on, and we call this sort of like a Cambrian explosion, right? For a scientific term, that was when everything just exploded and started to grow, back in history.
Ryan, we're going to have to take a break right now, but when we come back, if you don't mind, I'd like to start off on where you see the token market going in the future, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back on the other side of this break with Ryan Colby of Tokenfest. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba and Ed Baxter, segment brought to you by thevitaminpatch.com. Welcome back to CEO Money and Michael Yorba. You are listening to Ryan Colby, founder and CEO, Tokenfest. Tokenfest.io is the website if you guys really want to get in there and start figuring out when and where and how. But Ryan, when we left off, we were going to come back on this segment, and we're going to talk about where you think the token market is going to go into the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first of all, the year 2018 is going to be the year that crypto goes mainstream. I think you're going to see a lot of blockchain adoption within major Fortune 500 companies. I'm not sure if you saw yesterday, but Kodak actually came out and announced Kodak coin, and stock drove up. The price went up pretty high, and you're going to see a lot more of that this year, where you have public companies actually reverting back to a crypto economic model through the use of a token, which is extremely interesting because that really sets the ball for all kinds of disruptive plays out there in different industries.
Oh, well,
so
we have
a lot more adoption.
Let me drive down on that. We've got a partner, Infuse, and they've got a CRM product, a video interactive CRM product, and he's talking about being able to use cryptocurrencies or tokens as a way for when people watch the video of a client, they get paid, that they can use those tokens or the cryptocurrency to transfer value for goods and services that are out there. In other words, they could buy a washer, they could buy a dryer, they could buy a car with the accumulation of currency or tokens that they accumulate from watching a video.
Yeah.
So are you talking about that at Tokenfest too? And do you know anything about that?
Absolutely. So, you have different types of tokens. The best way to describe it is really, I sort of categorize it into three categories. You have utility tokens, which is what you just described. You have security tokens, where you take physical assets and you tokenize them digitally. And then you have currency tokens, which is more like Bitcoin, which is, protocol that's used for, financial transactions. That's sort of a good way to view the market. But I think crypto economics and crypto economic incentive programs is really going to become this whole new field of study, because what we're finding out is this P2P mutually incentive model is really working well. And, it's about a win-win now. That's really this new system of P2P versus a company in the middle taking all the fees and making a whole lot of profit in the middle. That's why they call it decentralization, getting rid of the central player and really evening it out so everybody can win.
Ryan, Ed Baxter again from from Bison Creek Capital. You mentioned something interesting a second ago about the different types of tokens and obviously with the mainstreaming of it from different companies who've chosen to partake. I guess the question for you would be is that do you see this as an opportunity for legacy companies to try to reinvent themselves on the backs of blockchain when they may not necessarily be germane at this particular time, or do you see this as a real revolution with regard to how new business is being done? Because I see the smart contract or Ethereum side of it as being the real driver here.
Yeah, I agree with the Ethereum and the smart contracts, absolutely being fundamental, probably, the most cutting edge tech right now that we have. I think the most exciting times, though, are ahead. I believe that, Bitcoin's great, but it is very slow. There's room for improvement, and we have to solve this scaling problem on the networks, and, that needs to be solved. So I think you're going to find, you're going to have better technology come out. There's going to be improvements, but I definitely view it as a revolution and almost a shifting. We'll call it, what do things look like in a post-capitalist society? I mean, I know that's a little out there, but I see that, we're in a certain time in history where we're experimenting with these different social and economic models and really asking ourselves, is this the right thing to do? Should we continue down this path, or can we do more P2P? Can we economically survive and everybody wins, in this new decentralized universe that people are trying to pioneer? So I think blockchain will advance. You'll see a lot of really cool use cases in the spring of this year, probably at Tokenfest. We have some huge announcements planned. We can't disclose them, but, you'll see a lot of these starting to come out this year, which will be real exciting. And I think if you're an enterprise organization, you have to have a blockchain strategy. If you don't have blockchain research analysts and don't have a strategy for the future, I think it would be, kind of foolish to ignore this.
You mentioned something just a second ago that really kind of sent my favorite Martian antenna up. You talked about capitalism or the end of it as we know it. Is this not necessarily, this is your opinion, but is it not necessarily a more pure form of capitalism in lieu of controlled capitalism where you have oligopolies that control the access to capital?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like, exactly. It's what I'm talking about is almost a redefinition of what capitalism could be. What if we all could profit? What if we all can win? Why do we have to have the same, economic central banking platforms that we have now when the technology is there to allow for a fair, more, economically, fair system that's here. So it's, it's a changing the guard, but I think that you'll see federal governments. I think you'll see certain national banking systems start to adopt, maybe even their own coins, their own crypto. Take it, for example, XRP and Ripple, what they're doing and building their chain in the banking sector. Some great technology there. I mean, they're really adopting that. So,
Ryan, I hate to cut you off because this is a whole new world we're going to be talking about for a long time, but we got to go. But I want to thank you for being a guest on the show.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, we've been speaking with Ryan Colby, Tokenfest, March 15th, 16th, 2018 at the Palace of Fine Arts Theater in San Francisco, tokenfest.io.